So I wanted to start by acknowledging this situation we're in. It's hard to find meaningful words, but I'm going to try. Hi Anna, Debbie, sunny in Southern California, okay. With the murder of George Floyd and all the deaths from COVID, no matter your political view, these were lives, human lives, people that mattered to their families and loved ones. And we could certainly use so much compassion right now for ourselves and for each other. Self-compassion and compassion for other people are intricately linked, just as other people and us are linked. In fact, there aren't any others. We're all one. I wrote a piece about this in the Kindness blog. This was before George Floyd, but I think it speaks to what is happening in the situation right now, so I'm going to read that first before I read from my book. Maybe I should say first what my plan for this virtual launch is. So, I'm going to talk about and read from my book, and then I'm going to have a little surprise, and then I'll take questions. And you can just type those in the comments. Okay. So this piece is from the Kindness blog, and it's called All Guests Welcome. If there's one thing COVID-19 has shown us, it's that what happens in one part of the world affects what happens in another. The choices I make today may affect you tomorrow, which is why we're practicing social distancing to prevent the spread of the virus. This interconnectedness has got me thinking. Suppose I were to imagine the earth as one entity containing all beings. Just like I think of myself as one entity with one body containing all of me. How would that change the way I treat other people? If we are all parts of one entity, then what I do to you, I'm also doing to myself. From this perspective, kindness is the only thing that makes sense. I like to think of myself as a kind person, but when it comes to unkind people, I must admit I have a hard time. I can get so full of righteous indignation at people who are righteously unkind. How can I not be? Do I really have to be kind to them? Isn't that just condoning their behavior? In the same way, there are parts of myself that I dislike because they are unkind, my inner critic for one. But what I've found is that rejecting any of these parts of myself only serves to make them stronger. The more I resist, the more they persist. Rumi says, this being human is a guest house. So many guests knocking on the door of my psyche every day. Joy, worry, love, shame. I welcome them all. If I don't, their knocking just gets louder. What if I were to welcome the people who cross my path in the same way? What if I didn't fuel anger with anger and instead channeled this anger into acts of kindness? It seems like a tall order, but when I think of the world as one entity, my perspective shifts. Being unkind to others and being unkind to myself become the same thing. Likewise, compassion and self-compassion become two sides of the same coin. Some of us are quite good at being kind to others, but struggle with being kind to ourselves. Perhaps we've been taught to love your neighbor And we've forgotten the second part of that line. Love your neighbor as yourself. The fact is, to truly love someone else, we must love ourselves first. Rumi closes the poem The Guest House with these words: "Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." What guests do I want to welcome today? And what gifts might they bring? For they all bring gifts, whether we like those gifts or not. One of the gifts COVID-19 has given me is the gift of a new perspective. Now I understand what Rumi meant when he said, "There's a field beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, where even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense." Beyond these black and white ideas of self and other, there is simply life, one living organism. So we're all in this together. Which leads me to the concept of common humanity. So Kristin Neff, the main researcher of self-compassion, she defines self-compassion as containing 3 elements: common humanity, mindfulness, and self-kindness. I'm going to read this piece called Our Common Humanity. "How's your day going?" the young man behind the counter asked as I placed my coffee order. "Okay," I mumbled. Truthfully, I had barely been able to drag myself out of my apartment to the coffee shop. "Do you need a hug?" The question jolted me out of my sad reverie, and I stared at this man, a giant African-American youth with a big afro, who was offering me, a skinny, not-so-young, white woman, a hug. Before I had time to think about it, I said, "Yes, how could you tell?" "I can tell," he said, as he walked around the counter and gave me a big hug. At that moment, I felt loved by a complete stranger, someone with whom I probably didn't have a lot in common. We belonged to different genders, different races, different age groups, but that didn't matter. We had one huge thing in common: our humanity. Common humanity is one of the 3 elements in Kristin Neff's definition of self-compassion. Common humanity is a feeling of being connected to other people through our shared experience of suffering. For we all suffer. We all have moments of pain, and we all make mistakes. When we remind ourselves of this shared humanity, the suffering we're going through feels less intense. We feel less alone, and our experience less abnormal. We may not like it, but suffering is in fact normal. It's part of the human experience. In addition to alleviating our own suffering, remembering our common humanity can spur our desire to alleviate the suffering of others. It's a common misconception that self-compassion makes us selfish and less compassionate towards others. Quite the opposite. When we recognize that we are all in this together and we give ourselves compassion, it spills over to those around us. Common humanity. The other 2 elements, mindfulness and self-kindness. Mindfulness means holding our experience in accepting awareness. So we're neither resisting what's happening, nor are we being defined by it. Self-kindness means to be gentle with ourselves, rather than harsh and judgmental. So it has to do with our self-talk, our self-care, and ability to self-soothe. So my book is about self-compassion. Out of Love, Finding Your Way Back to Self-Compassion. It's divided into 67 short pieces. Each one ends with a journaling prompt or an exercise. And the reason why I did that was I'm not only telling my story and what worked for me, but I want to invite the reader to discover their own way back to self-compassion. And so in the book, I talk about how to change our self-talk, that voice. Right now it's going, you can't do this. Oh yeah, I'm doing it. And all of the traps we can get stuck in, the worry trap, achievement trap, comparison trap. Self-compassion, in my experience, has helped me move through some of those traps. I still get stuck in perfectionism and all that, but it helps to just breathe in the self-compassion. It can help us build healthy relationships that aren't codependent, can help us be creative and follow our passions, and help us through tragedies. And this is why I think in the time right now, we need compassion more than ever for ourselves and others. Many of you already know my story, but for those who don't, I'll do a short recap. So several years ago, I read a book that changed my life. It was Kristen Neff's book, Self-Compassion. I think maybe some of you have read it. It's a great book. And I'd always had a very harsh inner critic. But after reading that book, I recognized that there was another way. I didn't have to be so self-critical. I might have learned that, but I could unlearn it. So conceptually, I understood what that meant, that it might be good to be kind to myself instead of beating myself up all the time. But I hadn't yet made the leap to practicing it. We can understand something on an intellectual level, but sometimes we need a little push to get to feeling it. So that changed in August of 2016 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which served as a wake-up call for me. In some ways, it was a blessing in disguise. It woke me up to the fact that I had not been living the life I felt I was meant to live. I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. And so I had to make some big changes. And one of those changes was leaving my husband of almost 10 years. I agonized about how to tell him. I didn't want to break his heart. Eventually, I did tell him, and I did break his heart. He intentionally crashed his car in February of 2017 and died. The guilt was enormous. How was I ever going to live without feeling guilty for the rest of my life? It was self-compassion, the practice of self-compassion, that helped me through all of that. And so I wrote the book in part to make meaning of what happened, and also to share what had worked for me, as a way to inspire others. So my book came out May 26, and throughout the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, I've been reading short pieces from my book and recording them, posting them on social media, YouTube. So feel free to check all those out. I'm gonna read a more lighthearted piece called Trampoline Tricks. Let's see. Okay. Trampoline tricks. Don't leave, my 7-year-old nephews pleaded as I headed out the door. Why do they want me to stay, I wondered, as I gave them each a final hug. Why do they like hanging out with me? I'm no fun. I like to read and write and play the piano. Boring. When I was a kid, my idea of playing was to play school. I would be the teacher, my little sister would be the student, and I would make her do homework. She didn't think this was fun. Yesterday, I met Daniel's 8-year-old son, Indy, for the first time. I was nervous, but I kept telling myself the same thing I told myself when I met his dad. Just be yourself. That's all you need to do. But there was another voice that kept saying, you're no fun. He's going to hate you. He's going to think you're old and boring. And then, God help me, Indy wanted to teach me tricks on his incredibly bouncy trampoline. Now, I don't do tricks. In fact, I'm terrified of moving objects, especially if I'm the moving object. I'm practically phobic about anything that involves my head below my feet, like cartwheels or somersaults. I've been this way since I was a kid. See, I told you I wasn't fun, not even as a kid. Indy was cool about my lack of trampoline tricks. Then I started chasing him and throwing a ball at him, which he seemed to like. And hey, even I had a little fun. Whew. I wasn't a total disaster. The next day, he wanted me to come over again. Why? I wondered. I'm no fun. Then I caught myself. Wait, time for a reframe. Maybe I am fun, and not because of anything I do, but because of who I am. Maybe I'm lovable because of who I am, not because of what I do. Daniel, who granted is biased since he loves me, says that kids like me because I'm sweet and loving and I pay attention to them. Well, that's not hard to do. That's easy. But put me on a trampoline or some other moving device and I have no idea what to do. We have so many ideas about who we should be and what we should do in order for people to like us. Ideas about what fun looks like. But the truth is, people just want to be loved. Kids don't care about trampoline tricks. Not really. They just want you to genuinely care about them, to show up with all your heart. Do you think you need to be a certain way for people to like you? What would happen if you let go of those ideas? So my book is available wherever books are sold. I would encourage you all to buy from your local bookstore. They are struggling right now, and so if you can, please buy from your local bookstore. And there's always Amazon. So for international, I don't know if there are any international people here yet. You can buy it on Amazon, Amazon Germany, Amazon UK, Canada. It's available everywhere. And please, 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 please write a review on Amazon. That really helps me, helps authors. Write reviews for all the books you read. So this morning I was playing the piano and singing, which I often do to warm up my voice. And then I had the idea that maybe I should sing a song for you guys. This is so not like me. I'm a planner. I am not a spur of the moment person. But I think self-compassion is helping me be a little more spontaneous. So this is one of the exercises in the book. Write 3 to 5 sentences that speak to you, that are meaningful to you, things that you would like someone else to say to you every day. May I be happy. May I be at peace. May I be safe. And then we can turn it outward and say, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. So I'll sing this song and then I'll take questions. So think about if you have any questions and you can type them in the comments. And as a teacher, if you don't have any questions, I have questions for you. So we're just going to take a 60-second break here to move me over to the piano. Okay, be right back. All right. May I be happy. May I be free. May I be filled with loving kindness for everyone. May I be safe. May I be at peace. May you be happy. And may you be free. May you be filled with loving kindness for everyone. May you be safe. May you be at peace. May we be happy. May we be free. May we be filled with loving kindness for everyone. May we be safe. May we be at peace. May we be happy. May we be free. May we be filled with loving kindness for everyone. May we be safe. May we be at peace. So we're having some internet streaming issues. So I am going to just conclude this, sort of sum up, and wish you all a good day. Thank you for joining me. It means so much to have all of your support. And this video will be, it will be on Facebook and on YouTube. And buy my book, write a review. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me. And remember, be kind to yourself. Be kind to the other who's not the other. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.